Sometimes there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Sometimes we're not ourselves. There's no one I can turn to. And I know all the feelings that we shared out in the past. And I know your relationships are never meant to last. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on. Sometimes there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Sometimes we're not ourselves. There's no one I can turn to. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Larger than normal turnout this evening. I wish we had a turnout like this every annual and special town meeting, so you're all welcome, invited back in November. The date hasn't been decided yet, or the first Wednesday of every successive year. We do have overflow space available, but using that space presents logistical challenges, both in running the meeting and to those in the overflow space, as they won't be able to experience the meeting in the same way as those sitting here in the audience. To that end, I'm not going to open the overflow space for voters unless or until we exceed 550 voters, and we're quite a ways away from that. Since the capacity of the auditorium is 575, no one will have to share a seat. That said, maybe make a new friend and let folks know if there's an empty seat next to you. For everyone's safety, please do not stand or sit in the aisles or on the sides of the auditorium unless you are on your way to or from your seat or an on-duty first responder. If you are in the cafeteria right now, you can't vote from there. Some of you may remember that I took a few moments before beginning last year's annual town meeting to remind you what town meeting was all about. My words were based on the Mass Moderators Association 2-year town meeting, Spark of a Revolution initiative celebrating the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, which coincides with the defining events of 1775 and 1776, culminating in the Declaration of Independence, which was read aloud in every town. Tonight, I'd like to share with you a second installment. Massachusetts town meetings were a foundational influence on the Declaration of Independence, serving as the primary schools of liberty and a practical mechanism for building the political consensus required to separate from the tyrannical crown. When the British passed the Massachusetts Government Act in 1774 to ban town meetings, it was taken as a direct assault on liberty. In response, many towns barred their doors against British soldiers to continue meeting, often enumerating the grievances listed in the Declaration. The meetings acted as they do today as a place where neighbors deliberated until a common will was reached. Nearly 60 Massachusetts towns in 1776 alone debated the notion of independence. Some issued declarations on their own. These statements included the principles and phrases adopted in Philadelphia, such as pledging their, quote, lives and fortunes to the desire for and demand of independence. John Adams and John Hancock, himself a town moderator, took the directives as the legal and moral consent of the governed required to sign the Declaration. In other words, town meetings were the ghostwriters of the Declaration. The process of town meeting deliberations and votes translated local grievances into a unified philosophy of natural rights. These natural rights inform the aspirations enumerated in the Declaration of Independence we now revere. It caused the spark of a revolution in 1775 to become the full conflagration of the American Revolution in 1776. Welcome and thank you for being here this evening. The first order of business is what I call the preliminaries. This is where I go through some of the basics and explain how we will operate tonight. I know many of you are first-time attendees, so just please pay some attention to understand how we're going to operate tonight. Town meeting is not the public comment section of a select board or school committee meeting, nor is it a public forum or a public hearing. What town meeting is the legislature for the town of Ashland. And tonight we are sitting in legislative session. Together, we collectively approve the town budget, vote on capital purchases, approve bylaws, and more. My name is Adam Schuster. I am the town moderator. The moderator is elected by ballot for a 3-year term at the annual election of town officers to preside at all town meetings during their term of office and is authorized by Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 15, to regulate the proceedings, decide all questions of order, and make public announcement or declaration of all votes, subject to the bylaws that Ashland has enacted to regulate the proceedings of town meetings. The moderator, as part of our statutorily authorized ability to regulate town meeting proceedings, reserves the right to amend, alter, and/or waive any portion or all of these rules as the circumstances warrant, in the interest of fairness to all parties. All rulings of the moderator are final. Besides serving as the presiding officer of this legislature, I believe that my job is also to ensure that those here in attendance understand what is going on. I'll do my best to explain anything out of the ordinary. If at any time you have a question about something, please ask, as there are likely others with the same question. I'll be guided in running town meeting by the 4th edition of Town Meeting Time, which is published by the Massachusetts Moderators Association and is generally recognized as the authoritative guide to running town meetings in Massachusetts. Joining me in front of the auditorium in no particular order, members of the school committee, members of the select board, members of the finance committee, Town Council Lisa Mead, Town Manager Michael Herbert, Assistant Town Manager for Administration and Operations Catherine Bird, Assistant Town Manager for Community Development and Community Affairs Beth Reynolds, Finance Director and Treasurer Collector Cindy Sincata, Ashland Public Schools Superintendent Jim Adams. With me on stage are Town Clerk Cindy Livingstone and Deputy Town Clerk Chris Sullivan, who's not with me on stage at the moment. I wrote these ahead of time. I couldn't anticipate him not being here. This meeting is being broadcast live and recorded for later rebroadcast on WACA-TV. Welcome to those watching us. When you checked in this evening, you received an orange index card. It is important that you hang on to this card, as you will not be able to vote without it. I will generally be able to determine the results of each vote by a simple show of cards. In the event I am unable to do so, we have tellers that will perform an actual vote count. Tonight's tellers are doing their primary duty of checking folks in this evening, and they have not yet been sworn in, which is not what usually happens. If we need the tellers, I will call them in, I will swear them in, and they will do their duty to count the votes. Please ensure that you have turned all cell phones and other electronic devices to mute. If you must take or make a phone call during these proceedings, please leave the auditorium to do so. The warrant that was posted and from which we are working tonight constitutes a notice or warning to all voters of what we will discuss tonight. Town meeting can only act within the scope of an article on the posted warrant. Similarly, any discussion is also limited to the scope of the articles on the posted warrant. Town meeting acts on motions. If there isn't a motion before town meeting, no action, including discussion, can take place. To allow for discussion, I will entertain a motion and a second for that motion after each article has been introduced and explained, but before discussion commences. Once a motion has been made and seconded, it is subject to amendments from the floor. The procedures for amending an article are listed in the back of your handbook in a section titled Selected Town Meeting Procedures. If you have a question or comment during discussion of an article, make your way to one of the two microphones and wait to be recognized. After being recognized, please state your name and address and direct all your remarks to me. Please keep your comments brief and ensure they relate directly to the article being discussed. In a little bit different from what we normally do, the microphones are available only to registered voters this evening, or town staff as needed. If you are unable to get to one of the microphones, please raise your hand and I will have a microphone brought to you when it's your turn to speak. To ensure that we can hear from the greatest number of people, each speaker will be limited to one 3-minute turn of the microphone during discussion of each article or each section of the annual budget. Please remember that all comments or questions are to be addressed to me, and nobody may speak until I recognize them. Please do not address your remarks to any other individual. If you wish clarification from the previous speaker, please ask me, and I will call on that person. All debate is to be conducted in a respectful and courteous manner. No comments of a personal nature are to be made. Rude behavior, especially shouting, bullying, and personal attacks, will not be tolerated. Anyone unwilling or unable to comply with this rule will be removed. I'd also ask that everyone refrain from applause and similar outbursts during discussions, the exception being when we adjourn for the evening. Some announcements. I'm going to start off with something that was handed to me a little while ago. The library is showing a screening, The Extraordinary Caterpillar, a family-friendly film being shown at our wonderful library this Saturday, the 9th at 9:30 a.m. Q&A after if you would like to stay downstairs in the community room. Annual town elections are 2 weeks from yesterday on May 19th. As always, I'm predicting a beautiful day with nothing but sunny skies on election day. My history is not so great with that. So I'd urge everyone to get out and vote. And when you do, take a neighbor or two with you. Everyone votes here at the high school, and polls are open from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. The deadline to register to vote is 5 p.m. on Friday, May 8th, 2 days from today. In-person early voting will be held in Town Hall from May 9th through May 14th, except for Sunday, May 10th. Hours are available on the town clerk's page of the town website. You may also request a mailed ballot. The deadline for that is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, May 12th. A few words before we start. Tonight's town meeting will be different than what we are used to, so I wanted to explain that before we get underway. As you are all aware, I assume you are all aware, there's an operational override in the ballot in the upcoming town election. Okay, who didn't know that? Excellent. Thus, the elevated interest in tonight's meeting. Though there's an override in the ballot on the 19th, there's no override on tonight's warrant. And while the override will be mentioned tonight, it's not up for a vote or discussion. Instead, the budget we'll be voting on tonight assumes the override will pass. But sitting here tonight, we don't know what will happen. To address this uncertainty, instead of asking for a motion to dissolve after we complete action on our last article of the evening, I'll instead ask for a motion to adjourn until June 3rd at 7 p.m. If the override passes, I'll need 24 registered voters to join me at 7 p.m. on June 3rd, right here, to call town meeting back to order and immediately dissolve it. If the override doesn't pass, we'll need to come back on June 3rd to reconsider the budget and certain transfers based on the lower available revenue. Start with the moderator's motions. The moderator's motions are listed in your handbook on page 4. They are the same standard motions we approve each town meeting, so I'll just ask to address them as a group. Do I have a motion to approve moderator's motions 1, 2, 3, and 4 as printed in the handbook?
So moved. Second.
Raise your cards to vote. All in favor? Thank you. And opposed? That motion passes overwhelmingly. On to our business for the night. Article 1, here are town reports. We have 3 reports tonight. First is from Jill Verns on behalf of the Stormwater Advisory Committee. Jill. And there's an apology to go with this. There's this great video you're about to see, but there's no sound because they upstairs didn't know ahead of time and they can't get the sound done in 10 minutes. So pretend you're back in the old style movie houses where you have no audio. Jill's going to give you a little commentary though. Jill.
Good evening. I'm Jill Verns, representing the Ashland Stormwater Advisory Committee, or SWAC, as we call ourselves. At its core, stormwater management is about reducing pollution. And unlike wastewater, stormwater isn't treated. It flows directly from our streets and neighborhoods and activities straight into local streams, rivers, and lakes. And because of that, everyday outdoor activities have a direct impact on our water quality. The town's stormwater program operates under what's known as the MS4 permit, which requires not only regulatory compliance, but also public education and community involvement. SWAC was established by the Select Board to support that work. We serve as a resource on stormwater issues, help monitor the town's compliance efforts, and work with town departments to increase public awareness and understanding. One of our ongoing priorities is education, helping residents make the connection between what goes into the storm drain and where it ultimately ends up, our streams, rivers, and lakes. You may have seen the message, "Only rain down the drain," on catch basins around town, and that's part of this effort. As part of this work, SWAC has partnered with local student groups, including the Ashland High School Environmental Club, with students from Worcester Polytech Institute, and local Girl Scouts on outreach and education initiatives. This evening, we're presenting a short video developed by some Ashland Girl Scouts focused on the importance of protecting stormwater and the impact of our local waterways. So again, as Adam said, unfortunately there's no audio tonight, but the video is available on the Ashland Stormwater webpage. So you can play the video now. Thank you.
as it comes to an end, I'd encourage you to all go out and watch it with the audio. About that no clapping thing. Next up is the school committee and chair, Laurie Tosti.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see so many people here. Just waiting for the right slides. While we're doing that, there's another one, hopefully. There we go. I'm just going to share a few words of reflection on what has been happening over the years. It ties into what we're talking about tonight, and you'll hear later about our budget from Mr. Adams. Looking out, seeing a lot of different faces, some familiar, some not so, but I think it's just making me realize I've shared probably perspectives with many of you over the years. I've lived here 35 years. I've been on the school committee for 15 years. I've sat in the seat for 13 years, talking to you at town meeting. I moved to town a young woman with no children. I raised 4 children here with my husband. They all graduated from Ashland High. And now I have to admit that I am a senior and retired. So through all those stages, though, one thing that has been consistent and that hasn't changed for me is that I've always been really passionate about education, and I've tried to support it in any way that I can. And one of the ways was being on school committee. And I wanted to share some of the things that not only we've done, but we've done along with, I see former board members of the school committee, select board out in the audience, all the people that you're sitting up here. And just about everything that I'm going to talk about has been a group effort that has included all of those people as well as the community, which we couldn't have done without you. So the public schools has built together over the past 15 years while operating well below the state average in per pupil spending. Lots of really great things. The entire time I've been here, we've had to operate at the bottom of the list of Massachusetts per pupil school spending. We've been at the bottom third the entire 15 years that I've been here, possibly longer, but I can only speak to what I know. Right now, we are 362 out of 396 districts in the state of Massachusetts of what we have available to spend per pupil. And through thoughtful decisions and a deep commitment to students, we built a system grounded in excellence, equity, and opportunity for every child. It happened with parent and community involvement. It happened because we've dedicated school committee members, an excellent superintendent and administrators, phenomenal teachers and staff, and the cooperative relationships that we've established with the other boards in town. Next slide, please. On a shoestring budget, we've made meaningful and lasting investments. We've expanded counseling supports, strengthened equity and inclusion efforts, created specialized programs, and new and improved facilities like the David Mendez School, thanks to your support and the hard work of that building committee. We've built the Launch Program, which is a program for 18 to 23-year-olds, special education students. We've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by adding solar. We've aligned school start times with student well-being. Next slide, please. And we've always done these things under financial constraints. We are extremely lean, and there's nothing else to cut from without taking a step backwards. We've been able to do a lot with a little, but we can't do a lot with less than what we need to have enough. Next slide, please. I'm not reading from the slides because I'm trying to respect the moderator's time, and they will be available to you on our website, and you can look at all the different things that we've done. Across the district, smart investments have been made, and it's made a measurable difference. We've saved millions of dollars with our special education in-house programs that not only allowed us to save money, but allowed us to keep our students in the district with their peers. We're improving outcomes while staying fiscally responsible. Thanks to hardworking students and exceptional educators and teaching staff, we have some of the highest AP scores in the entire state of Massachusetts. We're second in this general region, and the scores are just phenomenal. And so we've always been able to do really great with the foundational things. We have a solid core here. And if you look around, we may not be able to offer all the bells and whistles that you might see in some other districts, but our students have great success, and we're very proud of the work that we do here. Next slide, please. In every school, you can see the impact: strong early literacy, STEM opportunities, inclusive classrooms, and social emotional learning. And by building those programs in district, we save millions while keeping the students in their own community. We're doing more with less, have been good stewards of your tax dollars. Thank you all for coming tonight, and we appreciate you being here to help us protect the progress that we've made. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie. The final report under Article 1 is from Town Manager Michael Herbert.
Good evening, everyone. Historically, under Article 1, I have used that opportunity as a way to review some of the projects that were previously approved at town meeting. Tonight, though, I want to use the time here in Article 1 to talk about the general fiscal context that we're operating in this fiscal year. You have heard, I'm sure, about the Proposition 2.5 override that we have proposed to the community. And the reason why we are in that position is inflation has finally outran what we are able to raise in property tax revenue, which is limited to 2.5% each year, plus new growth. Cumulative inflation between 2020 and 2024 has grown by 22%, whereas the levy, the property tax levy, has only grown 13%. A municipality, it's important to know, even when inflation starts coming down, a municipality can't just recover the ground that it lost during those high inflation years. Just because the inflation slows doesn't mean you start off from a level playing field again. Primarily, what is driving this across the Commonwealth is health insurance costs. Health insurance has gone up in the Group Insurance Commission, which is the state-wide program which we're a part of. It's gone up 7.5% overall in an average. Our health insurance budget has gone up by $700,000, a little over 8% because of where our employees choose to go to their plans, and our health insurance budget is $9.7 million.
No point of order during Article 1.
Like I said, we're not the only community that's facing this right now. All across the state, we have seen a historic wave of overrides as other communities have faced this same situation. 54 out of 351 municipalities have placed override questions on local ballots in fiscal year 2026. There are 74 questions. Those 54 municipalities have placed a total of 74 questions on the ballot, the second largest total since the early 1990s, and the total has been 158 million. Just the other day, Brookline, I believe, passed one of the largest ones, if not the largest one in history, of $23 million. Again, I want to reinforce that Ashland is not an anomaly here. We are facing the same fiscal pressures as every community here in the Commonwealth. I had mentioned that inflation is finally outrunning the revenue increase, the cap in the revenue increase that we're allowed under Proposition 2.5. And just simple math, the 2.5% increase this year is $1.4 million. Again, health insurance is going up almost $800,000. The retirement assessment has gone up $352,000. And Keefe Tech, which I will have to say is probably one of the best values here in the Commonwealth, we still have to pay their assessment, which is going up 32% this year. So that's the cost scenario that we're facing right now. And I do want to say that we have done everything that we could to control those costs. Just looking at 3 initiatives alone, we have saved $16.3 million for taxpayers here in Ashland. And again, those are just 3 initiatives. Changing our health insurance plan, which has saved $15 million. Energy efficiency improvements that we have made over the course of these 10 years, as well as financing them with competitive qualified energy conservation bonds, which actually subsidize our interest. That means lower cost to taxpayers. In addition, we have actually gone out as a team, as a group of staff and volunteers, and have actually been out to go out and get competitive grants totaling $32 million, which far outpaces any other community here in the region. Again, we've done this as a way to be more efficient and to save Ashland taxpayers as much money as possible. These efforts have been recognized by a lot of independent organizations, but mainly I want to highlight 2. Standard & Poor's, which is our credit rating agency, has given us a AAA rating since 2016, based on our financial practices, our economic indicators, and our financial management. In fact, 2 specific quotes speak specifically to our financial practices, saying they're strong, well-embedded, and likely sustainable. And then also, management has a record of outperforming the budget through good planning and tight expenditure controls. I'm not saying this to brag, because we've done all of this together, but I am saying this so that you can have confidence that before we've gone out to ask you for more money, we have done everything we can to save yours as well. What has this resulted in? Well, Ashland's tax bills, and I want to say I understand that for many people they are high tax bills, but they have grown more slowly than the peer average, every year for over a decade. In fact, if you look at our region, the average tax bill has gone up 46%. In Ashland, it has gone up 38%. That gap is now $2,700. So that is, again, compared to where Ashland is compared to the rest of the region, which I believe is 18 communities. And not only this, though, we have the fastest rising home values in the region as well. Now, I know this impacts affordability for people who are just trying to buy a home, but I want you to understand that people are moving into Ashland because of what we offer, including our public schools, and probably mainly our public schools. And so that's my presentation for Article 1. I'll have more information about the budget specifically when we get to Article 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. There be no vote required. We'll move on to Article 2, but before I do, I'm going to have to ask the folks against the wall. There are dozens of seats down in this row. I'm going to have to ask you to sit down. If you need contiguous seats, I'm sure some folks will move over and make some gaps for you. Folks, that applies to everyone. What? What? Donna's fine. She's checking folks in as they come in. I thank you. I know it probably sounds like it being prickly, but fire safety is kind of important. Article 2, transfer from General Stabilization Fund, sponsored by the town manager. To see if the town will vote to transfer available funds from the General Stabilization Fund to support the FY27 general fund budget, or pass any vote or take any action relative thereto. The Finance Committee recommends that the town transfer $1,640,256 from the General Stabilization Fund to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, for the ensuing fiscal year as set forth in the FY27 general fund budget. Mr. Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So as the moderator said, this is a transfer from our General Stabilization Fund, otherwise known as our Rainy Day Fund. The transfer consists of three specific items totaling the $1.6 million. First, we have a structural deficit of $690,000 that existed before we even looked at adding on an override. So $690,256 goes straight to fixing a structural deficit, or addressing a structural deficit, I should say. Approximately $750,000 is going towards municipal departments and costs associated with those departments. I will say that there was, initially when we started these budget discussions, we looked at adding that $750 as part of the override. The Select Board, the FinCom, and the School Committee jointly decided to take this approach, which is take it out of the Stabilization Fund this year, in an effort to make this thing less confusing and also the override more affordable to taxpayers. And then finally, there's $200,000 that's going to capital to help our school department as they take on the maintenance and operation of the school fields from our Department of Public Works. Just real briefly, the balance in the Stabilization Fund is currently $8,340,000. This would bring it down to $6.7 million, which would still be over 5% of our budget, which is not bad, but our goal is 10%. And S&P, again, Standard & Poor's, our credit rating agency, likes to see those numbers above 10% as well.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. To allow discussion, I'll entertain a motion that the town transfer $1,640,256 from the General Stabilization Fund to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, for the ensuing fiscal year as set forth in the FY27 General Fund budget. Do I have such a motion?
So moved. Second.
Discussion. They always put that up high,
I know,
don't they,
it's
Julie?
always too high for me. Julie Nardone, 86 Elliott Street. I feel that this transfer is financially irresponsible, and it's just going to tee us up for another override. I watched this go from $750,000, which seemed excessive, to 1.3, and then 1.4, and now 1.6, and there has been absolutely no pushback, and this is the opposite of belt-tightening. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. This will require a two-thirds majority. As always, we'll start with a show of cards. All those in favor of the motion on Article 2, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Article 3, transfer from Special Education Stabilization to General Fund, sponsored by the Town Manager and Finance Director. To see if the town will transfer $300,000 from the Special Education Stabilization Fund to the General Fund, or pass any vote or take any action relative thereto. The Finance Committee recommends the town so vote. Ms. Pemberton. And feel free to turn that around so you can face the folks, unless they're too scary.
Hello, Stephanie Pemberton, Town Accountant. Article 3 requests the transfer of $300,000 from the Special Education Stabilization Fund to the General Fund. This fund was established in 2015 to serve as a financial buffer for the district as it relates to the fluctuating costs related to out-of-district special education. This transfer will aid in the balancing of the fiscal 27 budget and uphold our commitment to providing all students with necessary services.
Thank you very much. To allow discussion, I'll entertain a motion that the town transfer $300,000 from the Special Education Stabilization Fund to the General Fund, account 49700-49760. Do I have such a motion? Second. Discussion.
Joan Confrati, One Shore Road. I'm just wondering, how much is the town reimbursed by the state for students who are outsourced?
How much is the town reimbursed by the state for special education services? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
So it, excuse me, I'm over here. So it varies year to year. It's called the circuit breaker reimbursement. So it's a complex formula, and so it can be anywhere by state statute. They're supposed to reimburse up to 75% to a district who sends students out of district for educational purposes. That being said, how it works is we are required to spend 4 times the amount of a per pupil cost before the reimbursement begins. So I'll use a real easy example. It's not accurate, but I think it's important to understand the concept. So let's assume a child is $100,000 for an out-of-placement. This doesn't include transportation, just the services necessary for that child to be educated. Let's assume a $10,000 per child per pupil cost, so $40,000 immediately the district is responsible for. So that leaves $60,000. So if the state then says we're going to provide 70%, because I can only do the math quickly that way, reimbursement, that's $42,000 of the $60,000, right? So the state would be giving us $42,000 back. So we would now still be responsible for another $18,000. So in that instance, it's 42% reimbursement of the $100,000 for the overall cost. That being said, in FY26, what we're anticipating in terms of the reimbursement is, and I have the exact number, so just give me a moment, is approximately $1.9 million of a $5 million expenditure. And again, that does not include transportation, or that does include transportation in terms of the reimbursement. Yeah, and it's always a year behind, just so we're clear. We don't have it, so if we're spending $6 million this year, it's in a year we'll be getting those reimbursement monies. And it depends really on the state budget. They don't always fund it. We've seen years where they funded it 28% of the reimbursement, even though the law says 75%. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Right, you're welcome.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll move right to a vote. This will also require a 2/3 majority, and we will start with a show of cards. All those in favor of the motion on Article 3, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Article 4, Fiscal Year 2027 Budget, sponsored by the Town Manager and Finance Director. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from available funds and/or transfer from available funds in the Treasury such sums of money as are necessary to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, for the ensuing fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026, or pass any vote or take any action relative thereto. Last year, I provided both the school committee and town manager with a few minutes to make comments on the budget. This idea was well received, so I'm continuing it this evening. First up are Superintendent Jim Adams and School Committee Chair Laurie Tosti.
This doesn't actually, in writing, say that this is the override budget.
Because, as I said earlier, we're not voting, the override is not on the ballot or the warrant. Sorry, it's not on the warrant. The override is not up for discussion this evening.
I think that's deceptive to the public, and I think it's not fair, and I think it needs to
We
be.
can only speak to the scope of what's on the warrant.
Okay, well, I'm saying that, and I think there's a lot of people in this auditorium who feel that way.
I would encourage you, sorry, folks, to speak to the Select Board. Mr. Adams.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Moderator. Growing up in Vermont, where town meetings are sacred and are actually state holidays, and where citizens come together to discuss major issues with their town, including the budget, I appreciate everyone here this evening. So before I begin, I want to take a moment to recognize the reality that many in our community are facing. I understand that these financially challenging times for families, for residents on fixed incomes, and for taxpayers across Ashland. The rising costs of everyday life are affecting all of us, and decisions about town and school funding do not happen in a vacuum. They directly impact households. I, along with the school committee, recognize that, and we approach this conversation with the understanding and respect that it deserves. At the same time, we also have a responsibility to be transparent about the financial realities facing our school district. Tonight's presentation is intended clearly to outline the challenges, the choices before us, and the potential impact on our students and community. So tonight I'm presenting the Ashland Public Schools fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. It's clearly a synthesized version that is online if you want to look at the whole budget and our process that we've undertaken thus far. But at its core, this is a stabilization budget focused on protecting the student experience while addressing long-standing structural challenges. First, it's important to understand what drives this budget. Like most school systems, 79% of our costs are salaries and benefits, reflecting our investment in the people who work with our students every single day. We serve over 2,800 students across 5 schools with a total operating cost of about $49 million. This is not a growth budget I'm presenting tonight. It's about correcting how we fund what already exists. A key issue we are addressing is our reliance on school choice funding to pay for ongoing expenses, and that approach is not sustainable. Think of school choice funds as our stabilization funds, folks. That's what we have in the school district. One-time funds that can be utilized for any purpose of education. Once they are expended, they are not brought back into the budget. Making sure we're on the right slides. Thanks, Mike. This approach, as I said before, is not sustainable, and one of our primary goals this year is to end that practice and to put the district on a stable financial footing. So to do that, we're presenting 2 paths forward. The first option is a 6.18% operational override, totaling $47.2 million, or an increase of $2.75 million. This option stabilizes the budget by moving over $1.1 million in recurring costs into the general fund, fully funding athletics and eliminating our reliance on unpredictable revolving funds. Most importantly, it creates a sustainable, long-term foundation. The second option, as you can see, is if an override does not pass. This is a budget of $45.9 million, or a $1.44 million increase over FY26. This maintains services in the short term. It continues using $1.1 million of revolving funds for ongoing recurring costs, leaves a $300,000 athletics deficit, and brings us to a fiscal cliff where in 2028, school choice funds are projected to be fully depleted. This will also require the town to draw down significant funds from the stabilization that Mr. Herbert just talked about. Currently, we would have to come back and ask the town for more funding out of the stabilization fund to make our budget balance. It's important to note that 13.2 positions have already been reduced, largely through attrition and targeted cuts. These are difficult decisions that we make when families ask me, how did you go about getting the budget to where it is, the dollar value? We sit and we discuss every one of these positions. Yes, some of these are unfilled positions. Those are easy positions, right? You can say, hey, when you're looking at your budget, looking at your household, what are costs that are on your budget currently that you can pull out that are not going to impact students immediately? We've done that. We have made an effort to ensure that the financial stability and the fiscal responsibility of the schools is taken into account here. We are reducing positions as well. Director of Social Emotional Learning, our special ed coordinator position, middle school Spanish position, nursing. We have teachers who are retiring. We're not refilling those positions. It comes at a cost in terms of increased class sizes, for sure. Those are things that concern me in the future. But it's the right thing to do now. And that's my point in terms of looking at the budget. In the broader context, Ms. Tosti mentioned this earlier, our per pupil ranking, what we spend per child in Ashland compared to the state, we rank 362nd of 396 school districts. I'll be honest, it's a catch-22, right? We outperform many of these districts, or most of the districts in the Commonwealth, by spending less money. I get that. I get the argument. My fear is if we don't continue to figure out how to stabilize our budget, we will see us drop in terms of our performance. We do more with less. We talk about having the ability to be financially thoughtful, to look at, go back, Michael, just one slide, sorry. We've built programming. I've come before this body numerous times. I was telling Fran Blake earlier, this is my 17th year now in Ashland, 13 as superintendent. And what I've recognized is we've built tremendous programs for our students in this district. For the students, when the great question about how much does it cost to have our students go out of district? How much are we reimbursed? This number here, 10.7 million, is an estimate of an annual savings by building programs in the district. It's great work. I'm thankful for this community supporting that. Thank you, Michael. But what the budget still doesn't do, we're not talking about our capital needs, the $14 million of capital needs that exist just for the schools, critical facilities, infrastructure. These are going to require separate conversations with the town, the select board, finance committee. It's pretty significant. So the two paths forward we have, and I'm over my 3 minutes, Mr. Schuster, and I apologize, but the override, which is structural stability, freeing up school choice funding to help with strategic needs, long-term sustainable growth and a path forward versus reliance upon one-time funds, depleting those one-time funds, and then having to come back to this community saying, we need an override at a significantly higher amount in the future. Deeper cuts. That's the reality if we continue to rely on one-time funds. Thank you, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Herbert, I'm going to ask you for a moment, please. Right now, I'm speaking directly, even though I'm looking at the folks in the auditorium, I'm speaking directly to the folks in the cafeteria. If you are in the cafeteria and you're in the possession of an orange card, you're not going to be able to vote unless you're in this room. There are dozens of empty seats in this room. I'm going to ask the folks who are sitting next to empty seats to raise their hands so when folks come in from the cafeteria, they'll be easy to identify where those seats are. If you are not in the auditorium, you will not be able to vote or otherwise participate in town meeting. Only in the auditorium. So as folks come in, if you just want to sort of raise your hand that there's a seat next to you, and they'll be able to easily see that. I thank you very much. Mr. Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So the presentation I plan on doing tonight for Article 4 consists of, again, the broader budget, and then also talking about some of the municipal departments. I will try to keep it brief and within my 3 minutes, although that can be very difficult. But before we start, I want to really extend my thanks to the Tri-Board, which consists of our Select Board, our Finance Committee, and our School Committee, the Superintendent and his team, and also our finance team, our finance and management team. Sitting to my right is Treasurer Collector and CFO Cindy Sincata, who took on the CFO role less than a year ago. You heard from Ms. Pemberton, our town accountant, who has also been in this less than a year, and our two assistant town managers have been in their positions for less than a year. So this has been a very challenging budget for them, and I appreciate everybody's cooperation and coordination. The FY 2027 general fund budget this year is $88 million. It represents a $4 million increase over last year, and as we mentioned before, it's a $2.75 million increase over the Proposition 2.5 cap. The largest drivers of this expense are education at $3,146,000 increase over FY '26. Now, that includes both the Ashland Public Schools and also the Keefe Tech assessment. Now, this gives me a good opportunity to point out that education is probably the largest cost driver in almost all municipal budgets here in the Commonwealth. And a lot of those cost drivers are based on fixed costs and contractual costs. And this also gives me an opportunity to just give a shout out to the superintendent, the school committee, and their team for the work that they've done on this budget. When I told Jim, I don't think we're going to be able to just go to the stabilization fund or find the one-time funds or have the revenue here to meet our expenditures. We might have to look at an override. He did not take...
It's a report. There are no points of order. Actually, yeah. No, you may not, Julie. I'd like to read this to you, please. Town meeting time, section 7.2. On a point of order, a voter may raise one or more of the following questions and no others. Is the speaker entitled to the floor? Is what the speaker is saying or proposing frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or contrary to proper procedure? Is any pending action frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or contrary to proper procedure? Are you alleging any of those three things exist?
Yes.
Oh, which one?
Okay. You said at the beginning that there was no override on this budget and on this warrant, and that no one could talk about the override. The town manager spent 7 minutes talking about the override.
Any of those things do
and
not
he's speaking
fall under...
about it now,
Julie,
but we can't.
Julie, none
That's
of those
all
things
I have to
fall...
say.
You can ask
Double
questions.
standard. Thank you.
Julie, none of those things fall under a point of order. You're welcome to make any of those comments you want when it's your turn to speak. Mr. Herbert.
Just continuing, I really want to acknowledge the work the school department did on going after and planning for this budget. It really is a solid plan given what they had to work with. As I mentioned before, benefits and insurance represent a $1.2 million increase over last year, and public safety is a $400,000 increase over the previous year. So I mentioned before, the Ashland Public Schools appropriation is $47,236,000 under this budget. The Keefe Tech appropriation is 1.6, which is again is a pretty large increase from a percentage standpoint, and that is based on enrollment and also how the budget increase for Keefe Tech as well. And again, I will say that Superintendent Evans does a marvelous job over at Keefe Tech. So benefits and insurance, $15 million, almost $16 million this year, a little bit over $1.2 million. You'll see on the right what makes that up is health insurance, employee retirement, which again is assessed to us by the Middlesex County retirement system, unemployment increases, increases in our property and liability insurance, as well as our workers' comp insurance. And getting a little bit more into the departments, under public safety, our police department, there's a $100,000 increase in order to hire one additional police officer. Chief Rossi, Deputy Chief Fanchula, and the entire department really should be commended for the work that they've done recently in reestablishing a culture within that department of customer service, and really they always give a tremendous effort. But they've done a really good job from an organizational standpoint, bringing in really good officers now that we got out of civil service in order to fill out that department. They also have an embedded clinician as part of their department operations as well. And Kirsten, I'm sorry if you're here, I'm going to call you out by name, has just done a remarkable job in terms of our mental health response from our public safety officials. Also included is a $300,000 appropriation increase for our fire department to hire an additional firefighter for each shift. So that's a total of 4 firefighters. What we are seeing here in Ashland is now we're starting to get concurrent calls, which is more than 1 call happening at a time, more than 2 calls happening at a time. And when you don't have enough people to run a fire truck or run an ambulance, if you're that 3rd call, that's not a good feeling. And so as we're starting to see that concurrent call number rise, we really feel like this is a necessary increase in the department. It's still well below national standards. I want to be clear about that. But it is an increase to the budget that we think is necessary due to rising service levels, or rising service needs, I should say. That said, this budget still includes a decrease, or excuse me, a revolving fund offset of $700,000. This budget also includes a $258,000 increase to the public buildings budget, and it adds 2 additional staff to our 2 current staff. One would be a director of facilities, another would be another maintenance tech. Some people might ask, why would you hire a high-level position? It's because we don't have somebody right now who can direct things in terms of preventive maintenance, in terms of where the work goes. We used to share a facilities director with the school department. We tried to make that work, and it wasn't servicing either of our departments. And so we decided to go away from that model, and the school department has a facilities director, Mr. Murray, who does an incredible job, and we would like to have the opportunity to do the same. In addition to the personnel, there are also increase in utilities and contracted services. We are really aiming for this to start doing the preventive maintenance necessary to keep us from having to make more expensive repairs in the future. And so I will be able to answer any questions you might have, as well as our team, and thank you.
Except not right now.
Except, all right. The moderator has spoken.
As is our custom, we'll now hear from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. For those who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Moore, and I serve as the chair of the Ashland Finance Committee. The Finance Committee's role is straightforward but important. We review the town's finances, evaluate the budget, and make recommendations based on what we believe is fiscally responsible and sustainable, not just for this year, but for the long term. Over the past several months, we've taken a hard and honest look at Ashland's financial position, and I want to be clear with you tonight. The challenge we are facing is not the result of a single decision or a single year. It is the result of a structural imbalance that has been building over time. At the center of that imbalance is a simple reality. Under Proposition 2.5, Ashland's primary source of revenue, property taxes, can only grow by 2.5% per year unless voters approve an override. That 2.5% cap works well in stable environments, but we're no longer in a stable cost environment. When we talk about Ashland in 2026, we should be honest about who we are. We're a welcoming town with a real community feel, but we're also situated in Metro West between Boston and Worcester, in one of the most economically powerful regions on earth. Massachusetts is consistently among the highest income states in the country, and that context matters because it shapes the costs we face. The same regional pressures families feel, such as wages, benefits, contracts, and the prices of services, hit our town and school budgets too. We compete with nearby communities for people and vendors and talent, and those markets don't wait for us to catch up. So the real question is whether we meet that reality head on, or whether we slowly let the services and stability that make Ashland Ashland erode year after year. And it's important to understand that this is not the first time we've faced pressures like this. Over the past several years, the town has worked hard to avoid coming to taxpayers for an override by using a variety of one-time funding sources to bridge these gaps, including free cash, stabilization funds, one-time state and federal funds, including COVID-era relief, deferred or reallocated capital spending, and temporary savings or timing differences within budgets. These tools helped us to manage through short-term challenges and delay this moment. But by their nature, those things are not sustainable. I want to address an argument that some residents have raised regarding the possibility of higher unrestricted state aid this year from the Commonwealth. While any additional support from the state is certainly welcome, it is critical that people understand what that money actually represents. State aid fluctuations are not a stable or controllable long-term revenue source for the town of Ashland. They are determined annually through the state budget process, subject to changing political priorities, economic conditions, and decisions entirely out of local control. Building a long-term operating budget around the assumption that unusually favorable state aid increases will continue indefinitely is simply not responsible financial planning. Even in years where the town has received a temporary increase in unrestricted aid, those funds do not come remotely close to solving the long-term structural imbalance between recurring revenues and recurring expenses. One-time or unusually strong state allocations may help reduce short-term pressure around the edges, but they do not eliminate the underlying problem. Suggesting otherwise confuses temporary relief with structural stability. And those are two very different things. And that brings us back to the underlying issue. When we look at what is actually happening on the expense side, the numbers tell a very different story, specifically on the school side of the budget. Transportation costs for our schools are rising by approximately 10%. Special education expenses are increasing by over 7%. School professional salaries, which are driven by contractual obligations and cost of living adjustments, are increasing at nearly 5%. And total school-related fixed non-discretionary costs like health insurance and benefits are rising by roughly 4.25%. These are not discretionary expenses. These are contractual, mandated, or essential costs required to operate our school system. And importantly, this is not about expanding programs. This is the cost of maintaining what we already have in our schools. When your revenues are growing at 2.5%, but your school-related costs are going at 4 or 7 or even 10%, the math simply does not work. That gap is the structural problem driving the override before you. Over time, that gap forces difficult choices, drawing down reserves, delaying investments, and ultimately reducing services. This is especially important when we talk about our schools. Strong schools are not just an educational priority. They are one of the single most important drivers of property values in a residential community like Ashland. People choose to live here and invest here because of the quality of our schools, and maintaining that strength protects the value of every home in this town. Now, I want to be very clear about something important. The override being proposed is just specific to the schools. Separately, on the municipal side of the budget, covering services like police and fire and DPW and general government, we're facing similar structural pressures. That is reflected in Article 2 of the warrant, which you previously voted on this evening. Under that article, the town is being asked to make a significant draw from the Stabilization Fund to support the municipal budget. That draw is being used to fund core town services, but it's not a long-term solution. Stabilization funds are meant for one-time needs and not ongoing operating expenses. So to be clear, this override is for the schools, and the stabilization fund draw from the warrant is being used to temporarily support the municipal side. But both point to the same underlying financial challenge. There's another important dimension of this conversation, and Michael spoke to it, but I'm going to speak to it a little further here. Ashland currently maintains a AAA credit rating, and that's the highest rating a municipality can achieve. And that rating has real financial value, whether you know it or not. And because of it, the town of Ashland can borrow for projects at lower interest rates. Even 0.5% on a borrowing for a project can result in millions of dollars in long-term savings for the taxpayers over the life of the borrowing. And that rating is not guaranteed. If we rely too heavily on one-time fixes and we don't do what we need to do and that rating declines, our borrowing costs will go up and taxpayers will ultimately pay more. So this is not just about this year's budget, it's about protecting the town's long-term financial position. And I also just want to be clear about the path forward depending on the outcome of this vote. If this override vote does not pass, the town will still need to close the school funding gap for the coming year, and the most likely path is going to be to draw additional funds from stabilization to temporarily support the schools. But that does not solve the problem, it's only going to delay it. So in that scenario, we would likely be back before voters next year asking for another override for a significantly larger amount of money because those school cost pressures will continue to build. And at the same time, we would need to address the municipal side of the budget, which could require additional financial support from taxpayers just beyond the schools, not to mention facing the daunting task of replenishing the millions of dollars back to our stabilization fund. So the choice is not between paying and not paying. It's between addressing the issue now in a measured way or addressing it later under more pressure with fewer options and at a higher cost. The override being proposed is not about expanding government. It's about stabilizing it, starting with our schools while recognizing broader challenges across the town. As a finance committee, we do not take this lightly. Recommending an override is something we do only when we believe it necessary to preserve the long-term financial health of the town. And after careful review, we believe that the override is necessary. Ultimately, this decision belongs to the voters of Ashland, but our responsibility is to ensure that decision is made with a clear understanding of the facts. The reality is simple. We can address this gap now in a controlled way, or we will be forced to address a larger one later with fewer options and at a higher cost. Thank you, and go Clockers.
Thank you, John. You know, I had some notes written down in my script, and they're in big red bold with yellow highlight, which means they're important, but I'm going to, since we already talked about them, I'm going to skip most of them. I just want to remind folks that the budget that we're discussing or about to discuss assumes the override passes. I'm not saying it should, it shouldn't. So the comments you're hearing up here from folks about the override is because the override supports the budget we're voting on. That's certainly within scope. Getting up and saying, okay, yes, no on the override, that's not within scope. But explaining that the numbers you're seeing are because it's supported by the override is perfectly fine. Similarly, those of you out there are certainly welcome to come up and say, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but ask a question about funding, what's supported by the override, what's not. That's perfectly within scope. We're just not voting on the override. And as I said earlier, if the override doesn't pass, we have to come back on June 3rd to reconsider the budget based upon lower available revenue. And before I go to the next part, there was a gentleman back there who was standing at the mic, it seems like an hour and a half ago. And I told him I'd let him come back. I'm not quite sure what you'd be speaking to. There's nothing on the floor to speak to, but if you have something that you think might be. Okay, thank you. Let the record show I did a spot for you. Voting on the budget is a two-step process. First, we will review and vote on appropriations for each of the various accounts. After action has been taken on all the accounts, we'll vote on the overall budget motion. I will start by reading the names of a series of accounts. If you have a question or comment on a particular item, yell out "hold." After voting on all unchallenged light items, we'll go back and discuss any that were held. I just want to throw a little note out there. The holding process is a courtesy and a tradition and something that I support, but it's not a binding rule. If there are rampant distractions from the frivolous holding of line items, I'll simply abandon the process and move to a simple debate on the whole budget as a single article during which regular speaking limits will apply, which means you get one comment during the entire budget. It's up to you guys. Administration, town manager, central purchasing, telecommunications, town council, data processing, town clerk, elections town meeting, board of registrars, human resources. There's a hold on human resources? No, it doesn't mean you get to come up. Yeah, it was a hold for human resources, right? Okay, is that a yes? Give verbal, please. Yes, thank you. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Human resources, sir.
Jeremy Pardo, 195 Prospect Street. Just noticing that most of the departments that we voted on previously were holding steady or a slight increase. There seems to be a pretty substantial decrease for the human resources, and I'm just wondering if someone could speak to why there's a almost 9% decrease for human resources.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Herbert?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Pardo. Yes, so that decrease is due to a restructuring of the office, and the director position was ultimately absorbed by the assistant town manager position in the town manager's office. So that's why you see that decrease.
Any further questions on human resources? Seeing none, we'll vote on that by itself. All those in favor of the human resource? Unless you're at the microphone, I'm not going to see you or hear you, not with this crowd. And it's perfectly fine to say, hang on from your seat. That's okay, too.
Mayjoy Foster, 15 Brogdon Road. Just a question on human resources. What is the qualifications? I'm a HR professional, so you said it was absorbed by the town manager. I'm just kind of curious, because it's a discipline that isn't
I'm going to stop you right there. That's an excellent question, but way out of the scope of the budget.
Okay. I thought we were talking about human resources, though.
It's way out, it's not anywhere close to the scope of the approval of the budget.
Okay, well, I made my point anyway.
All those in favor of the human resources budget, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly as well. Finance section, town accountant, assessor's office. Was that a hold on assessors? And treasurer. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. You what? You voted no. I said overwhelmingly. Did I miss something, Julie? Okay. The assessor's office. Joan?
Yes, just a quick question. I'm just wondering.
You have to tell everybody else who you are.
Joan Friday, One Shore Road, sorry. Just a quick question. I'm just wondering, it seems to have gone up by quite a bit. Is there a new position? I don't think it was mentioned in the report. Or maybe
Mr.
it was
Herbert?
and I missed it.
Mr. Herbert?
Hi, Joan. So that is for a change in software that we have to use now, the assessing software. So that's an increase in software charges.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further on assessors, all those in favor of the assessor's office budget, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Development Services, Conservation Commission, Open Space Committee, Planning Board, Inspectional Services Department. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Police Department, Fire Department. Which, both or one? I didn't hear you, Julie. Fire, thank you. All those in favor of the Police Department budget, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Fire Department, Ms. Nardone?
Julie Nardone, 86 Elliott Street. I have a question. If you turn the page A, it says EMS ambulance revolving, we're transferring it, and I'm almost positive we're that. The 200,000 and the balance is 1.25846. After we transfer it, it'll be like $1,050,406. And I'm almost positive that goes into the fire department. So my question is there some reason why we have such a big balance? I mean, we're almost to the end of the fiscal year.
So your question is there a reason there's a large ongoing balance in the EMS revolving fund?
Exactly.
Okay. Mr. Herbert?
So those funds are received from medical ambulance runs, which are paid for either private insurance, Medicare, or Medicaid. And I believe, and Ms. Pemberton, please help me out here if I get this wrong, I believe we also transfer an additional $700,000 as part of this as well. Is that correct? That is correct. So that's usually done at the end of the year. That's what I had mentioned earlier in my presentation.
So at the end of the year, if you take out 7 from 1 point, just say 1 million, you have about 300,000 at the beginning of every year. Okay, thank you.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir?
Jeremy Pardo, 195 Prospect Street. In the presentation, said that the 10.3% increase for the fire department was in part to hire additional positions to cover concurrent calls. Just curious, like currently, how many of those concurrent calls are covered by mutual aid from neighboring departments, and how would hiring those additional firefighters affect that?
It's a really good question. Do we have someone who can answer that? You can answer it, Mr. Herbert? Well, every day,
Chief?
more and more. Oh, there's a chief.
Chief, I'm sorry to make you get.
I did see that. I did
get
know
him
the
through
chief was here.
The operational questions I
He
leave to
didn't
the
even
chief.
try to hide all the way in the back either.
Sorry, Chief.
Chief Roby. So right now, we do just a little under 3,000 calls, and for the past 3 years, we're experiencing about 1,100 calls, which we happen concurrent. So we are seeing at least 2, we are seeing 3, 4. What do we get mutual aid? Yes, it's delayed. We're finding our towns around us are like us. They're busy too, so we're not necessarily always guaranteed the next town's available. We're reaching out to more towns. Similar to the structure fire that we had the other night, that happened so quickly, that takes 5 more towns into us, so you're really pushing farther and further away.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the fire department budget, please raise your orange cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Health Department, Council on Aging, Recreation, Veteran Services, Prevention and Human Services, Public Library. And I'm sorry, I should not have called it Recreation since there is no budget. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Public Buildings and Property Maintenance, DPW Administration, Highway, Snow and Ice Removal, Highway Street Lighting, Highway Combined Fuel, Cemetery Parks and Trees. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. School Department, Keefe Tech Vocational School. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Debt. All those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? I figured somebody would object to debt. We all hate it. That passes unanimously. Capital projects. All those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Employee retirement, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, group health insurance, other insurance, salary contingency, reserve fund. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? I saw one. Overwhelming. That passes overwhelmingly. On to the enterprise funds. Water enterprise, Sewer enterprise. Sewer or trash? Thank you. Trash collection. Field management. Cable access. Stormwater. All those in favor of the unchallenged items, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Sewer enterprise, someone had a hold.
Jeremy Pardo, 195 Prospect Street. For the sewer department, I was looking on the Massachusetts Utility Survey and noticing that our costs for Ashland are well above the median, both compared to towns in our local region within 25 miles and also for other towns who have like a similar funding structure. I'm just curious why that is and if there's anything we can do about it.
It's somewhat skewing into the out of scope with the rates, but I'll give you some leeway. Mr. Herbert, I'm the moderator.
Sure.
We can change spots anytime you'd like. Until tomorrow morning.
I'll have to think about that.
Until tomorrow morning.
So that is a good question and a good observation. Yes, our sewer rates are high, very high for the region and the MWRA universe, if you will. And that is because of two primary reasons. First of all, the costs associated with transporting our sewage to the treatment plant at Deer Island. We have to pay Framingham over $1 million just to transport our sewage, and that's based on the rate of, or how much flow goes through. And so we were actually paying, I think, a much smaller amount until back in the early 2000s we decided to challenge that and unfortunately ended up on the wrong end. And so that's why we
That's
ended up
called
paying $1 million.
bad legal counsel.
That is true.
That
was not Attorney Mead.
Well, it was not current counsel.
So the second cost is related to the treatment, and that is almost $3 million just itself. So in total, I would say 60% of the budget goes to transporting and treating sewage. If I may, just a couple of different potential things that we do and are looking at in order to reduce that cost. So first of all, you'll hear the term inflow and infiltration. It is not a SWAT team tactic. It is actually what happens when water from groundwater, simple groundwater, leaks into the sewage pipes. And then what happens is we have to pay for that groundwater, which is not sewage, to use those Framingham pipes and be treated. So what we try to do is we try to find where those infiltration points are and seal those up. That way you don't get groundwater in there. The other thing we're looking at is potentially in the future looking at a direct connection with the MWRA, which would be a significant capital expense, but it would save potentially on those Framingham transport charges. So it could be a saver for rates in the end.
Thank you. Seeing nothing further on the Sewer Enterprise Fund, all those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. We've now approved the individual line items in the budget. Now we need to approve the overall funding mechanism. For that, I'll entertain a motion for the general fund that the following amounts be transferred from the respective accounts: EMS revolving, $200,000; dog licenses, $25,000; and that the balance of $85,243,865 be raised and appropriated. B, for the Water Enterprise Fund, that $3,935,500 be raised through the water rates. For the Sewer Enterprise Fund, that $6,395,000 be raised through the sewer rates. For the Rubbish Collection Enterprise Fund, that $1,908,000 be raised through the solid waste rates. For the Fields Management Enterprise Fund, that $5,000 be raised through fees for field usage. For the Cable Access Enterprise Fund, that $427,000 be raised through cable franchise fees. For the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, that $450,000 be raised through stormwater rates. And for the Economic Development Special Revenue Fund, that $310,000 be appropriated from available meals tax funds. Do I have just a motion? All those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly, and we have a budget for next year. Yeah, it's okay. Article 5, transfer to OPEB trust sponsored by the town manager and finance director. To see if the town will transfer $375,000 from the OPEB contribution account to the OPEB trust, or pass any vote or take any action relative thereto, the finance committee recommends, but don't leave now, we're just having so much fun. I'm just going to pause for a minute. I know people are going to leave. Let's just let them leave and not try to work while they're doing so. You can't talk while you're leaving. For those of you in the cheap seats, plenty of seats in the orchestra section opened up. All right, we'll let them wander out. So as I was saying, the Finance Committee recommends that the town so vote. Ms. Sincata.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Since establishing the OPEB Trust Fund in 2015, the town has remained disciplined in its policy of pre-funding these future costs. This request continues that decade-long commitment, ensuring we stay on track to lower our long-term unfunded liability. Ashland is not only meeting a long-term obligation, but also protecting the town's AAA bond rating, affirmed by S&P Global Ratings since 2016, which keeps our borrowing costs low, ensuring that future infrastructure projects remain affordable for our taxpayers. Thank you for your past support of this transfer. I hope you will continue to support it this evening and moving forward.
Thank you. To allow discussion, I'll entertain a motion that the town transfer the sum of $375,000 from OPEB contribution account 01915-51709 to the OPEB trust account 88100-49710. Do I have such a motion? Discussion. They all left, huh? I was kidding. Seeing none, we'll vote. This requires a simple majority. All those in favor of the motion on Article 5, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. You're out of order. No one else say a word. Article 6, annual consent article, general, sponsored by the Select Board. See if the town will vote the following consent articles, which I shall not read in their entirety. Grant program authorization, road contracts, contracts in excess of 3 years, lease purchase agreements, revolving funds, grant easements. The Finance Committee recommends the town approve Article 6 as set forth in the warrant and set the maximum amount that may be spent on revolving funds in subsection 5 of Article 6. Given the routine nature of the items contained within consent articles, they are normally voted without discussion. As such, I will ask for a motion and then move directly to a vote. Do I have a motion that the town approve? I got to read the motion first. I really appreciate the enthusiasm, but town council's over there watching me with daggers. If the town approve Article 6 as set forth in the warrant and set the maximum amount that may be spent on revolving funds in subsection 5 of the Article 6 as follows: senior program revolving, $25,000. Town building rental, $75,000. Town of Holliston animal control revolving, $114,000. Library materials replacement, $5,000. Hazardous waste revolving, $10,000. Sidewalk construction fund, $50,000. Guidance revolving fund, $50,000. Food inspection program, $20,000. Electrical inspections and gas inspection revolving fund, $200,000. Tobacco program revolving at $10,000. Ambulance revolving, $90,000. Recreation revolving, $600,000. Vaccination clinic revolving, $30,000. Preston, where are you? 900. Thank you for that. And now? First, got to make the motion. Thank you. Preston only does seconds. This will require a 2/3 vote, and we'll start with a card count. All those in favor of Article 6, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? I declare 2/3. Article 7, Annual Consent Article, Community Preservation Act, sponsored by the CPC. See if the town will vote the following items: Community Preservation Funds, FY27 Annual Appropriations, from FY27 estimated revenues to committee administrative expense, $68,298. From FY27 estimated revenues to Historic Resources Reserve, to Community Housing Reserve, and to Open Space Reserve, $136,956 each, and to Undesignated Bond Reserve, $956,169. Oak Street Bond Payment to appropriate $128,650 from the Undesignated Budgeted Reserve Account. High School Athletic Fields Bond Payment to appropriate $284,200 from the Undesignated Budget Reserve Account. Warren Woods Bond Payment to appropriate $145,000 from the following FY27 CPA reserve accounts: Historic Resources Reserve, $46,400. Open Space Reserve, $39,150. Undesignated Budgeted Reserve, $59,450. Valentine Estate to appropriate $46,536 from the following CPA reserve accounts: Open Space Reserve, $6,650. Undesignated Budgeted Reserve, $39,886. Or pass any vote or take any action relative thereto. The Community Preservation Committee recommends the town so vote. The Finance Committee recommends the town approve the CPC consent article as set forth in Article 7. As with Article 6, due to the routine and recurring nature of this article, I will ask for a motion and then move directly to a vote. Do I have a motion that the town approve the CPC consent article as set forth in Article 7? So moved. Second. All those in favor, please raise your cards. This requires a simple majority. Oh, sorry. Please raise your cards again. I'd forgotten to mention it required a simple majority. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Article 8. Appropriate CPA funds for the purchase, acquisition, or taking by eminent domain, approximately 11.4 acres located at 41 Lincoln Road, sponsored by the CPC. See if the town will vote to take by eminent domain, purchase, or otherwise acquire a parcel of land, including 11 acres of land located at 41 Lincoln Road and shown on Assessor's Map 004, Block 017, Lot 0, and to pay for same, appropriate a sum of money by transfer from the Community Preservation General Fund for the acquisition and in addition $40,000 for demolition of existing structures on the property and conservation restriction. Said sum to be transferred from the general fund account from the Community Preservation Fund balance, and with unexpended funds as of December 31st, 2029 being returned to their funding source, and further to place the land in the care, custody, and control of the Select Board for town forest purposes, and to authorize the Select Board to enter into a conservation restriction on said property, or pass any vote or take any action thereon. The Community Preservation Committee recommends the town so vote. The Finance Committee recommends the town offer a price consistent with the requirement of General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5F, as follows. No such real property or interest thereon shall be acquired by any city or town for a price exceeding the value of the property as determined by such city or town through procedures customarily accepted by the appraising profession as valid. Mr. Ladd. Mr. Maybe, wait,
That's me.
I thought it was, wait, is it Rob? It's Rob. It's, right, and I have, who's speaking to it, Rob? You or
Let
Aaron?
me just go first, Rob, and then you go. Go. There
Thank
should be
you,
a
Mr.
map to go with
Moderator.
this.
Sorry for the confusion.
It's my fault.
Rob St. Germain, 64 Winter Street. I stand before you tonight on a motion to add some land to the Ashland Town Forest. In the early 1900s, whole forests in this country were being cleared, and land was rapidly being divided and developed. And there arose a realization that if we didn't take action as a country, that we would be losing a lot of valuable open space. So in 1916, the federal government passed the National Parks Act. Shortly thereafter, Massachusetts passed a state forest act, and also as a separate piece of legislation, permitted towns to establish town forests. In 1942, our benefactor Henry Warren purchased over 500 acres to establish the Ashland Town Forest. The citizens of Ashland have voted to continue that legacy with additional purchases, and the town forest now totals 714 contiguous acres. Your most recently approved comprehensive plan speaks loudly and clearly about the importance of open space to you, the citizens. Tonight, I'm asking you to consider adding an additional 11 acres that Henry Warren was unable to purchase back in 1942. This land is deep within the forest. It's accessed by a long dirt road at the end of Lincoln Road. It nearly cuts, as you can see, it nearly cuts the forest in half. It contains the only land, next slide please. It contains the only land designated by the state's National Heritage Program to be a critical habitat, a critical wildlife habitat area. It's the only land in Ashland that qualifies for that. The property is a very wet piece of property, the 11 acres we're talking about. Habitats are best when they are left intact, when they are contiguous and undisturbed. Let me restate this in a different way. Wildlife habitats are seriously degraded when divided, chopped up, or subject to human habitation. This land, therefore, is a critical part of the forest. We could say it is the most critical part of the town forest. And yes, it has a house on it. The house started as a shack. It was a hippie colony back in the 1960s. It has 4 basement sections that speak to the do-it-yourself evolution that this home has undergone over time. But it is not in great shape. It has leaky windows, extensive mold in the basement, vermin, an old roof, an old Earl burner, which was supplemented when it was occupied by wood stoves. It has not been occupied about 2 years now. The fate of the house has not been determined. It would be nice if Ashland had deep enough pockets and could afford to open a nature center that allows cross-country skiing and a place to warm up afterward. We don't have that kind of money. Our option is possibly to tear it down, but we will look carefully at any options available to us. There is funding in this article, which Mr. Ladd will speak to shortly, for a conservation restriction, which will guarantee the preservation of this land in perpetuity. The article also contains the words eminent domain, which many of us, me included, look at the term with some disdain. Let me suggest also that eminent domain is also your friend. It is a tool for you, the people of Ashland, to obtain land that is good for the community. It also is a tool to deal with sellers who have dollar signs in their eyes and want to enrich themselves at your expense. We have done 2 appraisals in this property, and we have to offer at least fair market value. We're not stealing this property. The seller would be paid, again, fair market value. The town forest is a precious resource. It becomes even more precious as the town grows and the population density increases. The town forest is home to a wide variety of wildlife. We have bobcats, rare bobcats in our forest. We have fisher. We have gray and red fox. We have bluebirds in several places now in the town forest. Pileated woodpeckers can be heard wherever you walk in the town forest now. We have wood thrush. We have warblers of various types. It is, by definition, a precious piece of property that we have. The world is in the middle of an insect apocalypse. In many places around the world, the insect population has decreased by over 50%. That has an impact on crop growth and feeding our populations. Also, as the insects go, so go the birds. Preserving this precious habitat is part of the solution. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to vote yes on this article to save this property, and I urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. To allow discussion, I'll entertain a motion that the town authorize the select board to take by eminent domain, purchase or otherwise acquire a parcel of land including 11.4 acres more or less of land located at 41 Lincoln Road and shown on Assessor's Map 004, Block 017, Lot 0, and to pay for same, appropriate a sum of $845,000 by transfer from the Community Preservation General Fund for the acquisition, and addition transfer $40,000 from the same fund for demolition of existing structures on the property and payment of a conservation restriction. Said sum to be transferred from the general fund account from the Community Preservation Fund balance, and with unexpended funds as of December 31st, 2029, be returned to their funding source, and further to place the land in the care, custody, and control of the Select Board for town forest purposes, and to authorize the Select Board to enter into a conservation restriction on said property. Do I have such a motion? So moved. Discussion. Mr. Ladd.
Aaron Ladd, Chair of the CPC Committee. Our committee and the Community Preservation Act is one of the original founders in the state of Massachusetts. In the early 2000s, Ashland was one of the pioneers of starting community preservation funds. In the previous motion, we approved paying off bond funds. Several of those funds expire in the next couple of years. This project is here tonight because there may not be a next time. Tonight is of the essence. We have been stewards of fiscal responsibility within the community preservation funds, but realize that purchasing this property is now. It's a shame to think for 100 years it comes down to one evening, but sometimes that is the case. And community preservation was created for nights like tonight, so that it is a separate budget mechanism outside of the general scope. I hope that you support a 100-year plan on one night. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hoffman.
Curtis Hoffman, 58 Hilldale Road. Last fall, there was an invitation put out to some of the boards in town to attend a meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, and I and one other resident from Ashland attended this meeting. Their goal was to recommend areas of open space and downtown development to be obtained by the local towns, in this case Ashland, Framingham, and Natick. And this parcel, which we're looking at and considering tonight, was specifically recommended for that purpose by MAPC. So I would urge approval of this motion. Thank you.
Kelly Diaz, 10 Dale Road. My parents own 41 Lincoln Road. They have owned it since 1973. The town has come, my mom passed away in June. It has not been vacant for 2 years. It has been vacant for months. While we try to figure out what's the best way to handle this special property that my parents called their heaven. We have found a buyer. We have found a buyer that is willing to not develop the land, but to use it for their sole purpose of making it their heaven. They are willing to give it to us at its assessed value, not less than what the town has offered us. Also, with the town's offer, it also came with texts threatening us that they were going to take it one way or the other through eminent domain. What are we doing? I'm at a complete loss for how this town is handling this without really fully communicating. You cannot tell me the house is in disarray. It is not. It's been lived in since till the end of June. So I just ask the town to do the right thing and not start taking things by eminent domain.
Sir?
Scott and Colleen Lawson, 33 Birch Hill Road. Good evening. My family and I have proudly called Ashland home for over 20 years. During that time, we've built not just a life here, but deep roots. We have 2 children currently in the school system, and our extended family also lives here, raising their own children alongside us. This community is not just where we live, it's where our lives are centered. I'm here tonight to speak about this property at 41 Lincoln Road. This is not just a piece of land to us, it represents something deeply personal. We approached a close family friend about purchasing this property and came very close to signing a purchase and sale agreement. However, we ultimately chose to extend that agreement because we became concerned about the possibility of the town acquiring the property through eminent domain. This has placed us in a very difficult position. We are planning to sell our current home in order to move into this property. This is not an investment for us, nor a development opportunity, quite the opposite. Our intention is simply, we want to live there. We have always dreamed of owning a property like this, something that allows our family to grow, stay in the town we love, and continue to build our lives here. Our plans are not to develop the land. We are not builders or developers, we are a family. We understand the town has interests and responsibilities when it comes to land use, and we respect that. But we ask that you also consider the human side for this decision. For us, that is about stability, about staying rooted in the community we've been a part of for decades, and about creating a home for our children in a place they've always known. We are asking for the opportunity to move forward with this purchase without the uncertainty of eminent domain over us. If we are able to purchase this property, Ashland is able to accomplish its goal to preserve the land without having to spend taxpayer dollars. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Joan Confrati, One Shore Road. Wondering where on the property the house is located? And second to that, I'm wondering...
Well, let's just do one at a time. Does someone have a laser pointer that can show where the house is on the property?
Where is the house in that property? The brown square?
rectangle.
That is the property? Is there a way to divide the property and leave that area out and keep the other property for the, or is there a way to put, I guess, my real question is there a way to work with the person who wants to purchase the property and put some kind of a covenant on the property that it would not be developed?
But before I ask anyone to answer, I'm going to ask Attorney Mead if it's an appropriate question to answer in this venue.
I think that would be a negotiation with the current owners and potential buyers of the property. All of those kinds of things are possible with mutual agreement.
can I ask how much, I don't know if it's part of this question, but how much money there is in CPC?
It's not part of this. I mean, I'll be honest, I've been asking for years for that to be part of Article 1, that they present that, and you didn't see it again this year, so I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Personally, I would like the town to negotiate with these folks a little more. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Can I provide a response to
No.
the question? Okay.
You had your one shot at the mic for this article.
Can I answer a question she asked?
She only asked two questions. One was, where's the house? The
Yeah.
other was, can we possibly do it? And town council answered the question.
Okay. Fine.
Hi, I'm Kara Hume. I live at 31 Donnelly Lane. I am co-chair of the Ashland Town Forest Committee, and I would like to bring a couple things to light which you may not know unless you've been involved with preserving land in town. We have an open space plan that is outdated, but it's existed for decades, and this property has existed on that inventory for decades. We've never thought that this property would be up for sale, but we have reached out. We wanted this property because it is so integral to the health of our forest. Our intention is not to bring hardship to the current owners or future owners. We just feel that this is a worthy purchase for our town because of things that we have heard through the comp plan and through the open space plan. And I think that's like my short version, but yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rob Scher, 41 Bay Colony Drive. I just want to remind everybody, we have very important public interests involved here, as Rob pointed out. And the one way to guarantee that those public interests, all of our interests, are protected is by proceeding with this eminent domain. If I read this correctly, this goes under the care and custody of the select board, which I don't trust them, but and they can negotiate a conservation easement that may fit or may not fit with some of the issues here. But my reading of this is that they will have some discretion to negotiate, but we'll only have that control and that ability to negotiate and protect important public interest if we proceed with this. If we don't, it's gone. Who knows what's going to happen? People may make promises now and really mean it, but that doesn't protect things. We all know what happens in a few years. Things change, and we lose the ability to protect this land. So I would urge approval. Thank you.
Before I recognize the next speaker, I see a gentleman coming down the aisle. If you're not in line, and you count because you're on your way down, if you're not in line, these are the only speakers we're going to hear from in this article. Rob, I assume you're speaking as an individual at this point, not as the presenter of the article?
I'm here to offer a couple additional points in answer to questions that were raised.
I believe we got all the questions answered.
May I?
If you want to speak as an individual, you are entitled to speak as an individual.
I am speaking as an individual.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the only house.
I didn't say a word. Okay.
This is not the only house in Ashland. A quick cursory look at the internet shows 10 additional houses in much better shape, of similar cost. This vote tonight does not lock in automatically eminent domain. What it does is give the select board a tool so this transaction, if you will, can be properly negotiated. Everyone was in favor of this until just a few days ago, and then overnight this offer appeared. So we need time to process this, and as Mr. Scherer just said, if we don't allow this tonight, the property is essentially gone. It's gone forever.
Rick James, 19 Tyler Lane, CPC member at large.
I'd just like to clarify something here, that this is just a funding mechanism. The $845,000 is what the CPC is asking the town to approve in negotiations. It is not a set in stone amount. It is not necessarily saying we're going to take it with eminent domain. We are just the funding vessel for this negotiation.
Thank you. Sir? Why don't you pull that microphone around?
Yes,
There
sir.
you go.
Hello, my name's Peter Gorman. I live at 48 Dry Street. I actually had the opportunity to walk this property with the potential buyers. I'm a local contractor, and I just want to make sure everybody understands this house is in decent condition. I mean, you could move into it tomorrow. They mow the grass. It's a normal house. It's not some dilapidated thing that needs to come down. For me personally, I feel like to take something from through eminent domain, there has to be a legitimate reason to, and I just feel like you're setting a bad precedent by taking this property because, you know, we want an open space. It's a house on a land that's surrounded by the town forest, a really nice piece of private property. So what happens next time when a really nice piece of private property comes up that other people have interest in? I just think it sets a bad precedent, and I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Get it back. Last comment? You weren't in line, Ed. I just said 5 minutes ago, that was the last comment.
Hi, I'm Scott Pelletier from 61 Warren Road. I am a planning board member and a CPC member, but I'm speaking on just my own behalf. I have a couple of questions. If the back and forth on the possible offer does not go through and we decide to go the route of eminent domain, how are we going to pay for the legal fees?
The legal fees for?
Eminent domain.
The limited. I don't know if council or Mr. Manager is better to answer that.
We would have to look at the legal budget, since my understanding is CPC did not appropriate money for legal fees.
Right. Oh, thank you. We only able to.
Or recommend, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're only able to approve up to the estimated amount. And then my second question is if we do go through eminent domain and it does come back at a larger value, because it's 2 or 3, 4 years down the road when this happens, since we at the CPC were only able to approve up to $845,000, does it mean that we'd have to come back and approve a larger amount based on a new evaluation for it? And so that's my first part of that question.
Mr. Manager?
You can't spend more than what's appropriated here, so if it were more than that, it would have to come back to town meeting.
Thank you. And then if that amount was higher than what we had in the CPC funds in this bucket of funds, what happens at that point? Is the town now on the hook to cover the difference?
Right, it would have to be contingent upon town appropriation. And this body is the only body that makes that appropriation.
Okay. And then I'm just gonna, any other? Then my last note is also the same thing where I get nervous as somebody who's up against the state park as property that's right there. I don't want my property eventually to be taken as eminent domain. So those are my final thoughts. Thank you.
Because this is land acquisition, this will require a 2/3 majority. We'll start with a card count. All those in favor of the motion on Article 8, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? Wow. Yeah, the motion fails. Repeat. If there's 6 other of you who want to count, you're welcome to it. Let me just explain. Mass General Law gives the moderator the authority to declare votes and determine the outcome of votes without a physical count. When a moderator does that, it is subject to what's commonly called the 7-voter law. And each 7 voters can stand, or say whatever, and say they want to recount. And this is a very reasonable case for doing so. I mean, I don't have the discretion to say no, and I wouldn't, but that's what Rob is doing. So if there are 6 other individuals who would like to have a hand count, which we can do, stand up, please. Great, they're more than 7. That's fine, we're good. What we're going to do now is do a hand count. Remember earlier in the meeting, I said the tellers hadn't been sworn in yet because they're busy checking in? I have to swear the tellers in now, and then we'll do a count. Just speak quietly amongst yourselves for a moment, please. Tellers. Yeah, well,
He said, no, yeah, it's like 50/50.
I'm going to assign you sections. When I do that, I told you. I told you. Sections. So I'm going to give you those top two sections. I'm going to give you orchestra left and center. I'll take orchestra right. All right. Thank you for your patience while we took care of that administrative function. What I'm now is, I'm going to ask, you don't have to vote yet, I'll ask you to raise your cards if you are in favor. You're going to have to keep them raised for an extended period of time because the cellos have to get out there and have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 for all of you. And we'll have you lower your cards once everything's been counted. Anybody have any questions? Great. All those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. Keep them up. You guys can lower your cards. Okay, which sections were you? Those two, okay. 24. That was over there. 50. You may all lower your cards. Thank you very much. All those opposed to the motion, please raise your cards. Which section? Top right? 39, that was the top left. Thank you. You can all lower your cards now. Okay, I have to do some math now. It's okay, I'm a CPA. Okay, the results are in. Not only didn't it get 2/3, it didn't pass. The yeses were 140, the noes were 157. The motion fails. Come on. You made it this far. Article 9. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 98 of the general bylaws by adding a new Section 5, secondary suite as is printed in your handbooks, or taking action relative thereto. The Finance Committee defers its recommendation to town meeting. Ms. Kendall.
Thank you. Tricia Kendall, 6 Rubenecker Road. Just to note that though I am the current chair of the planning board, this isn't really an article before the planning board. It kind of started out there, but is not a planning article at the present time. So what this does, if you might remember, last year, I think it was, Ashland needed to revise its bylaws regarding in-law suites, in-law apartments, in order to bring that in line with state law, which we did. And what it did is leave something behind, something that we had before. This was pointed out to me and to the planning board shortly before town meeting. Doug Scott, building commissioner for Ashland, pointed out that it makes it a little bit difficult for him to approve an in-law suite that is contained within someone's home. So what this article does is it separates, it acknowledges that there are two things here. One is an in-law apartment, which was approved, and that is a completely separate dwelling unit according to the state. It has safety considerations around it. It has certain means of egress that are required for proper egress during a fire. So that is one thing that stays obviously on the books. It has its own bylaw. This is about having what we're calling a secondary suite that has met many names over the years, the granny flat or the in-law suite or whatever. It does not have to be for a family member, but what this is allowing within a home a separate apartment that is really integrated with that home. And you can do that with the building code as it is, but it makes it very hard for our building department to distinguish between the two and to make sure that safety mechanisms are in place, really for the in-law for the in-law apartment versus this, and also to make sure that there's transparency in the sale of the property, that someone is either selling something with an in-law apartment, which can be rented out, and a secondary suite which cannot, which is really meant to be a suite for a close friend, a family member, that's completely contained within your home. One example of this I say is that if there's a fire in the two, people in the in-law apartment exit through their own door. It doesn't matter, they have their own doors. They can just exit the living unit from their own house. If you're in a secondary suite that's contained within a house, you need to run through, say, your daughter's house or your friend's house in order to get out, right? So these are really two different things. And what this bylaw does is just asks that someone who applies for a building permit for a secondary suite that's contained within the house that they register that and it becomes a part of the deed. So when that property might be sold, the person who might be buying the property knows which one of these things it is because they can look very similar, though the safety mechanisms are very different. Did I explain that okay, Doug?
Thank you.
Good evening. So I'm Doug Scott. I'm your building commissioner.
Oh, okay.
Some people love me, some people hate me, but it's part of my life. So an ADU is what came down from the state. That was required by every community in Commonwealth of Massachusetts. An ADU is treated as a single-family home. So if you build an ADU on your lot, you can be separated on its own part of your lot, could be attached to your lot, or you could convert it in your basement. But the differences are substantial.
And the biggest one is cost. An ADU, since it's treated as a single-family home, it is taxed as a single-family home. It's got 2 separate entrances and exits. It's got a fire separation barrier between the, if it's attached to or in the basement. It's 2 separate fire alarm systems, 2 separate water and sewer systems. So it's basically, again, it comes down to a single-family home. So I don't want to confuse you or what Trish said. What we used to have before this came about, and we're not the only town this happened, was we used to have this an in-law apartment, which you could renovate. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware of it. You could renovate your basement. You know, your mother, your father, your parents could live in the basement. It was open. It was open to the rest of the house, and there was free passage. And accidentally, when the town at that meeting a year ago, that was deleted from your zoning ordinances. And so when I realized what had happened, I said, well, like, I'm almost 70, and if I could torture my kids and get an in-law apartment, that's what I'm gonna do. So I said, we gotta get this back in. I talked to town manager and the assistant town managers and Trish and the fire department, and we thought it was a good thing for the town for us to get this back on our zoning ordinances. Yes, under the building code, it allows you to do it, but since it's not in the zoning ordinances, I could not permit it. And that's one of the other big reasons why I'm requesting that you approve this, because it's going to help everybody in the long run. And the last thing I'm going to say is that, you know, a renovation in the basement, you know, bedroom, a little living area, tiny kitchen, and a bathroom, you could probably do it for about $130,000, $140,000. An ADU is over $250,000. And that's it. Thank you.
To allow discussion, I'll entertain a motion that the town amend Chapter 98 of the general bylaws by adding a new Article 5, secondary suite, as printed in Article 9 of the warrant. Do I have such a motion? Thank you. Discussion. I appreciate the enthusiasm on that second.
Hi, Janet Platt, 11 Rodman Road. I am still a little confused about this. I've been sort of following this. The thing I didn't like about the old in-law apartment law that we had on the books was that it wasn't supposed to be rented after the demise of the loved one living there, and I'm happy that this doesn't say that. Because, like, I can rent a bedroom in my house. It doesn't have to be an ADU or an in-law apartment. I can rent to someone living in my house. So I appreciate that this doesn't put that limitation. I also appreciate that it allows what Strong Towns calls incremental development by giving a family an opportunity to house another family member, and then another buyer comes and there can be 2 people living there, and they can still build an ADU because this does not preclude that. So then we can have potentially 3 units on a property because they're separate things. So I'm still pretty confused about this. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I do like the incremental development potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeSoni?
Hey, good evening. Mark DeSoni, 119 Main Street. No in-laws to speak of for this article. Both my parents have passed, and I'm living in the Ashland house next door. So I don't have anything to say about it, but the idea is saying, when the parents told the kids, when you grow up, you gotta be living the best you can. But when you need something, we hope you have it for us. I don't have it for us, I don't have it for my parents, but how well is this going to be if there is no zoning commitments?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question you're asking, Mark.
If a person does not have a house, who lives in an apartment, no basement, no nothing, how is that going to work for them?
That's, Town Council?
It doesn't apply, Mark, it won't apply to that.
Yep, and that's why this is going over homes and houses that the parents or the siblings are saying, my in-laws are coming back again and they're going to live with us. Here's the home. That's it.
See no further discussion. This will require a simple majority. All those in favor of the motion on Article 9, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? That passes overwhelmingly. Article 10, amend Chapter 282, Section 9.6, Design Plan Review, sponsored by the Planning Board. See if the town will vote to amend Chapter 282, Section 9.62 and 9.63, Design Plan Review of the Town of Ashland zoning bylaw, as is printed in your handbooks. I do want to make folks aware that there are two Scribner's errors in this. 962 should read, it reads, 962 form, design review is conducted by a non-permanent committee made up of 3 members. It should say 3 to 5 members, not 3 members. I hear some people getting it now, okay. And then in the last paragraph of 962, the committee will be concluded at the end of each review, and the planning board will appoint a new non-permanent committee for the next application, not before the next application. Other than that, it's fine. The Finance Committee defers its recommendation to town meeting. Ms. Kendall?
All right, last article. Tricia Kendall, 6 Rebenecker Road. This time, this is an article for the Planning Board. I'm the current chair of the Ashland Planning Board. This is a change. We have a design review committee, obviously. We have had a design review committee, I believe, for about 15 years. I don't remember what the exact date is on that. And all we're doing here is trying to restructure the way the committee, that subcommittee works. Basically, this is a committee that sits underneath the planning board. The planning board appoints members to the design review committee. And what that committee's job is to advise the planning board on issues related to design according to things that are already laid out in the bylaws, which we're not changing. And that committee becomes very important, especially when, say, there are no architects or designers sitting on the planning board. Right now, we have 3 architects and designers sitting within our 6-person planning board when we consider our associate member. So that's great, but sometimes there's none. Sometimes there's no designers or architects sitting on the planning board. And then it becomes really useful as these projects come before us to have a group of people that can look at it in terms of design. What we find is that it gets really hard to find professionals, architects, engineers, landscape architects to commit to the 3-year positions on that design review committee. What we'd like to do instead is to have kind of these ad hoc committees per project. So when a project comes before the board that needs a design review, we can get 3 members of the committee, or 3 members of the community, or 5 members of the community, maybe depending on how big and important the project is, to sit in a design review group that may only have a few meetings, but they can concentrate on that one project and then just go back to their regular professional day job, right? And we think that we will get more involvement that way, more focused attention from designers on these projects that we have coming, and we think that will be really good for Ashland. So basically, the only part of this bylaw that's being revised is the way that committee is being created, so that instead of 5 kind of permanent, 5 members who have a 3-year commitment, we're saying for every project that comes before the board that needs the design review, not every project does, we will be keeping a list, or we will be looking for members of the community to sit just for that one particular project. And after they give their recommendations on that particular project, then that committee is disbanded until we need another one. It's important to note that design review committee's recommendations are non-binding to the planning board. The planning board is the elected body, and so the design review committee makes its recommendations to us, and then the planning board decides if it's going to take or not take those recommendations, and then we discuss and vote on the project. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. To allow discussion, I'll entertain a motion that the town amend Chapter 282, Section 9.62 and 9.63, Design Review Plan of the Town of Ashland zoning bylaw, as printed in Article 10 of the warrant, except in line 1, it should say 3 to 5 members. In the penultimate line of Section 9.62, the word before should be changed to 4. Do I have such a motion? So moved. Second. Excellent.
Martin Ring, 42 Bay Colony. It just strikes me that by doing so, we remove any consistency that we might have in this design review committee. Because each time a project comes along, it's a new set of people that might be looking at it. So that might mean some sort of haphazard planning. It may not, but that's what occurs to me.
Dr. Hoffman?
Curtis Hoffman, 58 Hilldale Road. While you have very thoroughly addressed the changes proposed to Section 9.6.2, I notice there are also a couple of minor changes to Section 9.6.3, which I wish you would address. Thank you.
I'm not helping you on this one, Trish. I'm not helping you on this one.
Let me see. Yeah, it wasn't the focus. Okay. Let's see. Design Review Committee shall submit its written findings to the planning board and to the applicant along with any recommendations and any suggested conditions. Yeah, actually, I think it was just repetitive because the Design Review Committee shall submit its written findings to the planning board, which obviously will contain its recommendations. And then it said, and any suggested conditions. So they may or may not have, so it says, it's just putting the any in there because it may or may not have suggested conditions. Those are things we put into the decision that the applicant would have to be bound to. And then it's just changing the word findings to report. So I think just to be a little bit more clear about what that is. Does that help?
Council, is there are there any substantive changes in that last paragraph in 963?
No, it was reworking to make it clearer about what they actually do.
Thanks. Mark? Oh, I'm sorry.
Aaron Ladd, 153 Pleasant Street. I would say 2 of the issues facing Ashland today are affordability and economic development through the items mentioned tonight. This proposal does nothing to speedline the development pipeline for a new project, but further slow it down. The longer a project takes to gather members, come up with a committee, not have the consistency that Marty Ring talks about, further adds to the cost of the project, further slows down the development of it. I see this adding 4 to 6 weeks to a project because it takes time to build forth a design review committee, change it out every time. I don't see how this helps Ashland get projects done quicker, more affordably. It may help the planning board have people volunteer for it, but I just see it slowing down any type of project going forth in the future, and I don't think it solves that problem.
Mr. Sony.
Okay, again, Mark Sony, 119 Main Street. Section 9.63 on page 15 says above the motion paragraph, it says, design review shall evaluate requests for site plan and design criteria, bylaw and the design guidelines promulgated by the DRC. DRC shall submit written findings to the plan board. Now, my question out of that paragraph is, if it's an ad hoc, occasional reform and different people, how can this get progressive with the design site review with the planning board and them? How can that work if it's ad hoc and one project is over, they get new people, and they talk it over on a new project? Is it going to be a continuation, or do they do a continuance with the old boards?
I think that was addressed by a prior speaker.
But it says, or any condition such including reports shall contain any recommendations. But if it's different, other than those three that's up there now, that's on the screen, it goes over to another page, the property projects to design for section 9.417 on chapter 282 zoning, and it comes down to that paragraph. Does it continue, or does it end as understanding of what it is at the beginning for a new design committee?
My understanding, Mark, is that there'll be one committee for each project.
Right, but if it's new and they pass one and find another one, and they got different people.
Different project, different people.
Okay, all set.
Preston?
Hello, Preston Crowe, 41 Rockwood Drive, former planning board member. I was on the planning board when the design review committee was created, and on larger projects, it can be a really helpful part of the process. Kind of reading between the lines on this, it seems pretty clear that the planning board is having trouble getting qualified people to commit to a perhaps 3-year term on the design review committee and consider lots of different projects. This looks like a good way of handling that problem. I expect they will try to get a pool of 5 to 10 people that they can contact who will rotate in and out on different projects. And so while technically a different committee on each project, it's likely from the same set of people who, maybe somebody took 6 months off and now they're back on again, but it looks like a good system to try. So I'm in favor of this.
Speaking as an individual, right?
Speaking as an individual.
Thought so.
Tricia Kendall, 6 Rebenecker Road. Thank you, Preston. That actually really helped to kind of sum things up. I think actually that this would maybe speed up our process, because we'd be really looking for architects, designers, people who would be really qualified to kind of give the planning board the information that it needs. We've had some feedback from applicants that sometimes it's really hard to get through the design review committee, and we're hoping to kind of make this more focused. And the second thing about consistency, actually, I think it might, having various people, professionals come in that are used to looking at projects, professionals that are actually Ashland residents, will, we get different people on different projects, may offer just a wider point of view instead of having the same people with a certain viewpoint each time. So I actually think it'd be a real plus for Ashland to try it in this to see how it works. We are thinking about keeping a roster by which we can easily maybe grab names from those to serve on these committees. So thank you.
Right. Seeing no further comments, we'll proceed to a vote. This will require a 2/3 majority. All those in favor of the motion on Article 10, please raise your cards. Thank you. And opposed? I declare 2/3 on that. Before we end for the night, I just want to remind everyone that the budget we pass this evening assumes that Proposition 2.5 override that's on the ballot on May 19th passes. Either way, we'll be back here on June 3rd. If the override passes, I'll need 24 registered voters to join me here at 7 p.m. to call town meeting back to order and immediately dissolve it. If the override doesn't pass, we'll need to come back on June 3rd to reconsider the budget and certain transfers based on the lower available revenue. There being no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until June 3rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. in the same location. All those in favor, please raise your cards. All those opposed? We don't really, go ahead. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.